And we were struggling financially, and they hired me to turn that. And so as you can imagine, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was responsible to the owner of the company. I was responsible to our employees, to their families, to our clients, and of course, and I remember sitting in my office feeling this weight on my shoulders, and one of my best salespeople, Danny Rich, one day knocked on my door. And he said those words, every just dressed. Can you come in? Right? So I said, come in, sure, Dan, come on. So Danny came in my office and he said, Spencer, you know, the business is starting to turn around. It's now 2013. What are you doing to make sure that we have enough trainers for our clients? And it was a real issue. It took us about a year to develop trainers for this intensive training. People would come from all over the world here to Las Vegas. We would take them up to Alamo. It's about 100 miles away from here, as you know. And so people couldn't hear them scream because we would work on them hard. But to become a trainer for this company took a year, and we had about a 90% failure rate. So many of our clients wanted to work for us, but to go through this training program was very difficult. And I had been working on it because I knew that. I've been recruiting past trainers. I got one to come back. Is that going in and out? Okay, well, I've had a loud enough voice. Hopefully you hear that. So instead of inspiring Danny with all my efforts to bring in these trainers and coaches, my natural tendency under pressure came out. I was abrupt. I was defensive. I was direct. I said, don't you think I know that, Danny? I got this. What I need you to do is get out there and sell. Now, if my intention was to motivate Danny to go out and be excited about working for me, how do I do it? Right, Jesse? Challenge. So he left my office demotivated and frustrated. One of the number one reason people leave our organizations is they don't feel heard. They don't feel respected. Why does that happen? We're not listening. Is it because of our pride? Maybe. Is it our ego? Possibly. But I believe it's because we are thinking impaired. And under pressure, we don't respond with empathy. Had I responded with empathy to Danny, I might have said something like this. You know what, Danny, thank you. You're right, this is a problem. Here's what I'm doing. What are your ideas? I'd love to hear it. Wouldn't that have been a better response? My job as a leader of an organization, and yours is too, is to engage the people on your team, to want to come up with ideas, to be excited about giving their all to the organization. Wouldn't you agree? Well, now I've told you a little bit about me. I want to learn a little bit about you. Now, when I was talking to Christy about this, I was so grateful for her reaching out to me. Thank you, Christy, for inviting me and having me here for that wonderful introduction. I said, is this a group of people that likes to interact? And she says, most of them I know, and yes, but those I don't know, I'm not sure. And she said, well, what I'd really like to have happen is for them to get out of their comfort zone and to think differently. I said, okay, we can do that. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask you a question. How many of you would say that you have good intentions? Raise of hands. Raise your hand if you say you have good intentions. Okay, excellent. Look around the room. Anyone admit to having bad intentions? Wow, nobody. Okay, good. This is a safe bunch. Good to know. But of those of you who said or admitted to having good intentions, how many of you have ever had a negative impact? You did or said something that you didn't plan on. You made a decision that didn't turn out right. Yes. You sent an email that you instantly regretted. You snapped at a coworker or a loved one, perhaps. Somebody said something in a meeting that you disagreed with, and so you complained about it to somebody else later. You made a promise you didn't keep. Somebody asked you a question, and you questioned their intelligence. You made a decision that turned out poorly. I guess what I'm saying is, do we wake up in the morning with good intentions and sometimes end the day having had a negative impact? Now, as you heard, I am a father of 5, 3 daughters and 2 sons. And this meme, I think, really describes the struggle of what it is sometimes to be a father or even a manager in business, which you agree. So what I'd like to say is that your good intentions and my good intentions do not matter unless they match our good impact. The problem is that you and I, for the most part, overestimate our positive impact and underestimate our negative impact. And this is validated by decades of psychological research. So, for example, how many of you would say that you're above average drivers? Mostly the men raising your hands right now. But it's at least good for you. 93% of Americans say they're above average drivers. You know that's not true, right? But 40% say they're the best drivers that they know. Another research has found that 80% of leaders think they're above average as leaders. How many have ever experienced a bad leader before? Also not true, right? So let's put it this way. How many of you have ever had an employee that thought they were doing a great job, and so they were surprised when they got a less than stellar employee review?
Yes.
Right? So this happens, and you and I really, the whole focus of this is how do we match our good intentions to our impact? And I came up with this title, There is an I in Team. I want it to be a little bit contrarian. Because you've always heard what? There is no I in Team. Well, there is. And it's you. And it's your impact. And hopefully matching your good intentions to your impact. But when I first came up with this title, I shared it with one of my clients, happened to be here in Las Vegas, an architecture firm. And I said, you need this training, there's an IT. And the partner started cracking up, he started laughing. He said, we just had that training 2 weeks ago. As a matter of fact, let me send you the graphics that we had for that training. Here's one, and here's the other. There is an I in Team, there it is, right in the middle of the A-hole. So we had a good laugh about that. Really, if you think about it, there's 4 I's in Team. All right. So I know, like you, I have had people in my life who have made an incredible positive impact. I'm going to quickly share one of those people, and hopefully this doesn't seem too maudlin, but here's my mom. Isn't she beautiful? Born in Canada. This is her walking down the streets in Edmonton. She's so stylish. This is high school graduation. Her name is even her name is beautiful, Noelle. She was amazing. Everybody loved her that met her. She was so engaging. My friends loved her. She would even come to my parties in junior and high school where I grew up. We had games like kissing rugby. Have you ever played kissing rugby? You're missing out. Luckily, in our games, nobody had any broken bones. It's violent. You can get bruises and black eyes, but it's fun. It's all we can get. But we were never embarrassed to have mom around. She challenged me. And her impact wasn't always immediate. She challenged me to be better, to strive. I remember in high school, she says, Spencer, you're never going to get away with your level of commitment in college that you did right now in high school. I'm like, come on, Mom. Well, one day I came to her, because I had AP classes, AP biology, and I didn't have great grades. I didn't apply myself. She was right. She used words like lackadaisical. I don't know what that meant. But I came to her and I said, Mom, I need to drop my father in English class. Now, this was anathema to her. Anathema. Very awful to her. Because she has a master's in English. She's really good at writing. She is an English teacher. And she's like, you just need to apply yourself. I said, Mom, listen, I've dated Mrs. Martin's daughter. She does not like me. She says, just apply yourself and you'll get a good grade. I had a paper due on Henry David Thoreau's Walden. And for whatever reason, she decided to teach me a lesson. She says, I will show you. Let me write your paper this one time. And she wrote my paper. She got a C+. I'm going to talk to that Mrs. Martin right now. I said, Mom, don't do that. And I prevailed and dropped it. I didn't need the class to graduate. Foreign language stuff, so I was okay. That one time backfired. But I will tell you that her impact on me came late. My first 4.0 was in my master's program at the University of I had 4.0, and I graduated 3.75. Again, that's not to brag, but I do that because of the influence my amazing mother had. I did that while working 30 hours at UPS at night and having 2 children with my beautiful wife under the age of 3. Now, one thing that I want to tell you about my mom is that she was an incredibly talented opera singer. She studied music in Italy. She actually met my father in Canada, he was from Germany, and they were singing in La Traviata together at the University of Alberta. And you know how they wear those tights in opera? Well, apparently he bent over and split his pants, caught her attention, and the rest is history. But the one thing that my mom did that just drove me crazy is she would turn every song into an opera. Pop music. I'm like, Mom, stop! And that's really the only thing that used to drive me crazy. These are some of her pictures singing with the Utah Opera Company. Again, it's lovely. Let's talk back about our impact. The focus today is how do we match our good intentions with our impact so that we can be the leaders, the coworkers, the significant others that the people in our life deserve. I became interested in this topic because I wanted to understand how I could be more effective at creating positive relationships, not only in my personal life, but in my business. You see, I was sabotaging my own success a lot of the time. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. I was proud of the fact that I was goal-oriented and learned that from other people in my life. My father was a small business owner. He was a hard worker. I was good at getting things done, but none of us can get everything we need done by ourselves. We need teams. We need teams in our communities, our churches, our schools, and of course in our businesses. I want you to think of the best team that you've ever been on. Maybe you were part of a sports team where you won a championship. Maybe you were part of a band that made great music again and again. Or maybe you were part of a project team that produced results on time, on budget, again and again. The team exists for one purpose: to produce results or create value. Would you agree? That's what the team exists for. And the best teams are able to do that sustainably. Great, you can do it for a week, you can do it for a month, you can do it for a year, but can you do that year after year? Create that value, create those results year after year. That requires really a team, conditions on the team that create that sustainability, which is all about relationships. So how do you create sustainable relationships? Well, according to the Gottman Institute, you have to have at least 5 positive to every 1 negative interaction. So that means, think about every time you've had a snarky comment, you rolled your eyes, you sent that email that you regretted, you snapped at a loved one or a coworker, or you did something that you regretted. That means you have to follow that up with an encouragement, with gratitude, with thank you, with patience at a rate of 5 to 1. How you doing? Now, when I write this content, I have my amazing wife, Jana. She edits so much of what I do. She listens to what I do. She gives me feedback. And one time we were talking about this very topic, struggling to make sure it made sense. And afterwards, she goes, "You owe me 5 positive interactions right now." She goes, "Not wrong." Why is it the ones that we love so often get the worst of us? Why don't they deserve the best? It seems so simple, doesn't it? It can't be that hard. Hey, Christy, you paid this person to come down here and tell me I have to have 5 positive to every 1 negative interaction? Well, if it was so easy, why are less than 12% of teams worldwide high performing? According to a latest study, this was in Harvard Business Review, January 10th, was just done, and I forget the gentleman's name, come up to me afterwards, I'll give it to you. 8.7% of his research based on 1,000 employees that he interviewed. My research comes from over 30 years worldwide, less than 12%. Why is that? Think about what you do. How many of you solve problems? How many of you fix stuff? How many deal with challenges in your work? That can become a habit or a focus. So one of the clients I've worked for in the past is Las Vegas Metro. How many of you think that their job is pretty easy? They got to deal with a lot of stuff, don't they? Some of the best of society, right? No, many of them have PTSD. How about healthcare workers? What do? Literally, their whole life is to save our lives. But guess what happens to them? They get compassion fatigue. I know we have people in HR. You never deal with problems, do you? How about when you buy your favorite widget and you call your customer service person to tell them, "My widget is so amazing. Thank you so much. It works exactly the way I thought." Doesn't work that way, does it always? You call them when you have a complaint. Litigators, work with attorneys here in town. One of the clients, a litigator, what do? Literally fight for a living. That can bleed over to their personal lives. That's some of the highest divorce rates of any profession. I'll give you one more. Auditors, what do auditors do? What's their job? To look for mistakes, right? That's their whole job, is to look for errors. Well, there happened to be this one auditor working for a big free accounting firm, was unhappy in his personal relationship. So what did he do? What he knew, he made a spreadsheet of all of his wife's faults so that she could start to work on them in an organized fashion. Gave it to her. That did not have the impact he intended. You heard, I've been married 37 years. I've been a business professional for 32 years. And in that time, certain behaviors under pressure come out in me that are self-sabotaging, that I'm not proud of, that have had a negative impact on the team. And I wanted to learn how I can be a better husband, a better father, a better leader. If the relationships that you have right now in your personal life and your business are not what they need to be to create that sustainability, who can you blame? You and I get to take personal responsibility for the results in our business and in our relationships. So let's take a closer look at this relationship between positivity and productivity, okay? So one of the things that I do with organizations worldwide is I do a certified team performance coach. I do a team diagnostic. We check in where the team is at. So I want you to look at this. This horizontal plane right here this is all about productivity. Low productivity, high productivity. And then this vertical here is about positivity. Low positivity, high positivity. So I want you to think about what it's like to be on a team that is low positive but highly productive. Results over people. Is that sustainable? Burnout happens. People it's all about competition. It's hard to sustain that level of drive where people are less important than results. But many managers fear the opposite of that, which is highly positive but low productive. It's a party. We love it here. Oh my gosh, we enjoy working together, but talk about change. No, don't do that. Don't rock the boat. I don't work too hard. I want to get my hours. People in California in the trucking business are so happy because of regulations, right? They can only work like 3 hours a day before they get to think. We were talking about some of the regulations earlier. Not sustainable, would you agree? Well, of course, the worst here is low productivity, low positivity. We're out of business very quick. But to get to here, high productivity, high positivity, this is not rainbows and unicorns and everybody loving each other. This is where we trust each other enough. If I don't keep my commitments, you can say, Spencer, you said you were going to do X and you let us down. And I'd say, no, you're right. Instead of being defensive, do you have that level of trust on your teams? It is hard to get there and stay there. Now, most teams look like this. By the way, let's call this productivity task, and let's call this positivity relationship, okay? If that makes sense, just to keep it simple. Most organizations look like this. They have a little bit of everything. They have some high productivity, they have some high productivity, low positivity, all of those. Is it ever appropriate that we're here in this low positive, high productive area? For sure it is. Sometimes we have mergers, acquisitions, sometimes we have the end of the month, sometimes we have an implementation of a project or project-driven deadlines. But we can't sustain that. Is it ever appropriate that we're here? Yes, you're here right now, hopefully. But we can't stay here. We have to go back and work. Is it ever appropriate that we're here? Yes, if it motivates us to change. Now, this looks simplistic, but there's 14 elements that we're going to measure. And 7 of those have to do with productivity, team leadership, resources, how do you use them? Are you proactive, accountability, goal, strategy, alignment? And 7 of them have to do with positivity, optimism, all the way up to trust. If you look at this as a different graph, of those 14 elements, this is an organization, this is very normal. Think of, what do you see when you see this? Some people say, well, I see a spider web. What if you looked at this as an artery? And the blood that's needed to flow to the organization is restricted because of how you communicate, how you have conflict, how you don't value diversity, how you have a lack of optimism. You see how that could be an anchor on productivity? Restricting people's engagement and their excitement to give their all. Is it better if we just turn that off? It's okay. It's going in and out. All right, I want to share with you a quote about this relationship between positivity and productivity. And this comes from Annie McKee, Richard Boyatzis, and Daniel Goleman. You've heard about them. They wrote an incredible book years ago called Primal Leadership. And they say the fundamental task of leaders is to prime good feeling in those they lead. That occurs when the leader creates resonance, a reservoir of positivity that frees the best in people. At its root, then, the primal job of leadership is emotional. Do you agree? Some of you say, well, I want my people being more emotional. That's not what we're talking about. You see, when we're under pressure, it's our emotions that cause the problems that I've been talking about. And so it's an emotional exercise to be able to stay in your thinking brain instead of being thinking impaired. It's emotional because it's about relationships, which I know, Jesse, you'll talk about later, won't you? These are some pretty smart people, and I absolutely agree with that. I'm going to share a little bit more about this idea of productivity and positivity with what I call the bathroom principle. How many of you like to use clean public facilities? How many have ever been in one that was less than stellar? So I say that in an organization, if you want to know if there's positivity and productivity, go use the restroom. I said this once to a group of leaders in Cincinnati, and one of the executives says, you know what, when I go interview for a company, I always ask to use the restrooms because I can tell what kind of culture they have just by the cleanliness of their restrooms. And I travel all over the world, and I'm going to show you a few bathrooms. In May of 2022, my son was engaged and was just going to go do summer sales in Orlando. And he was going to take his fiance's little Prius. I don't know if you've ever driven one of those all across the country with two huge guys. But we drove Salt Lake to Orlando in 34 hours. We stopped at a lot of public restrooms. Most were terrible. This one was awesome. This was just outside of Dallas. Anybody recognize what this is? It's a Buc-ee's. It's a Buc-ee's, yes. You know, the CEOs of Buc-ee's got tired of dirty restrooms, and they started a quick service business just around the bathroom. They have full-time attendants. And so this was my first time in Buc-ee's. And so here's my rental car. And I took video. And don't worry, I didn't incriminate anybody. So you can, does the sound work? Don't worry, it's safe. Okay, good. So here we are, walking through Buc-ee's, and this is, look at all those wonderful stalls. They have a full-time attendant in there keeping things clean. I really wanted to go into the ladies' room, so I was like, excuse me, pardon me, can I just go? No, sorry, I had to go out and have brisket instead. There is a Buc-ee's in Tennessee that has 140 gas pumps. It's an experience, and it's clean. 2 years ago was the first time I spoke in Indonesia, and our first road stop, we took a picture of the bathroom. This one's really hard for me because of my height. If your core strength's not great, you haven't done a lot of squats, it's a challenge. But the flushing mechanism is very efficient. We love Indonesia. We went back this year and spent some time there. This one is in Dubai. This is in the Dubai airport. And isn't that wonderful? They have some religious purposes. It's just, shower for your bum. My favorite was in Seoul, Korea, last October. It was really hard to go to the bathroom because I was so distracted by all this stuff. Seat warmers, music, squirters. I mean, very accurate. It was wonderful. It was so fun. The point, so I tell you this because I used to work for a company called iTech Attractions. International Tourist Entertainment Corporation. We build IMAX theaters and tourist destinations. And our first theater was in Branson, Missouri. I was hired as the Vice President of Operations. And we were competing with all the live theaters, you know, the Osmond brothers, Andy Williams, the Mandrell sisters. I mean, these were so many of the bald numbers. They all these live shows. We were an IMAX movie theater. And so when people came into our theater, we needed to create something that would make them want to come back. And if people came into our theater and they were treated poorly, they would get into their seats and say, boy, this better be good. But if the bathrooms were clean and they were greeted well and treated nicely and they didn't have to wait too long, they would sit in that seat thinking, boy, I can't wait for this to start. And that had a huge impact on how they would refer us to our clients. And so in order to compete with some of the theaters, we had just down the road from us a theater called the Shoji Tabuchi Theater. Anybody been to Shoji Tabuchi's theater in Branson? He's a Japanese fiddle player. It's amazing. But his bathrooms are, you know, Cintas Corporation does a Hall of Fame. Every year they do a bathroom top 10 list. Did you know that? Well, the Hall of Fame bathroom number 8 is the Shoji Tabuchi. This is the ladies' room in Shoji Tabuchi. There's a fireplace on the left. You can't see a real fireplace. So tour buses, listen, people my age, bathrooms are a big deal. Right? Just wait till you get my age. You'll appreciate it because you spend time there. That's why this is important. But they want to go there. And then this is the men's room. They have like a New York Stock Exchange ticker tape above the billiard table. Now, we couldn't compete with that. But in the ladies' room, we put one of those, on each end, we put those cheap electric fireplaces. And in the men's room, we had janitor's closets on either end. And so we drilled little aisles we put a light box, and we put a sign that said billiard room. And people were curious because they wouldn't open, so they'd look in there, and this is what they would see. This poster. We just had fun. But the most important thing was we didn't have a janitorial staff that kept our bathrooms clean. But it was our employees. The men took care of the men's room, and the ladies took care of the ladies' room. Well, this is where something shocking happened. I would come down occasionally from my office to be on the floor and just to interact with the audience, especially when the showtime was there. And my employees would always say, whenever something bad happened, I would show up. It was such a joke that they actually gave me a cowbell to wear around my neck so I could warn them. But one day I came down and the men were gagging. I'm not going in there. There's no way. I'm not touching that. We had a guest that had special needs that had made a mess in the men's room. Now, obviously, we couldn't have our customers go in there, so what would you do? Rebecca, what would you do?
As the leader?
Yeah.
I would clean that restroom myself.
You would clean that restroom yourself. Really? You get your hands dirty?
Yes.
I know that about you. And that's what I did. What was the impact of that? Not once after that was there anything I couldn't ask my team to do that they wouldn't do because they knew I would be willing to do that. Now, I don't know what it is, men, but sometimes we have a problem with aim. And we wanted to help our team keep the bathrooms clean, so we put up a little, this is our theater, by the way, isn't that beautiful? We put up a sign in the men's room just to kind of remind the men. Because, you know, to keep our employees motivated and want to do the dirty jobs, you know, you got to help them out a little bit. But you and I, every once in a while, have to dig in and get our hands dirty, don't we? And I say that we have to deal with some crap from time to time. So what is some of the crap that you have to deal with in your job? I want you to think about that right now. What are some of the challenges that you have to deal with every day? And I want you to think, what is it going to take for you to solve those challenges in your business? Is it better people? Is it better legislation like we were talking about? Is it better leaders in government? All those things can help. But the reason why you are here at this conference is because the most important thing is understanding the problem. And when you understand what the problem is that you're part of the problem, things start to change in your organization. And the solution is the I, is the working on I. If you work on your I, you can improve your impact. And that is about improving your emotional intelligence. Is that going to solve all your problems? No. but it's certainly going to help create that sustainability, that you get more engagement from the entire team to solve those problems. Now, there is a relationship between how we think and the results that we experience. And that connection between our thoughts and our actions creates those results. I don't know who that guy is. Maybe he was smart. Jesse, we're supposed to quote ourselves sometimes, you know that. Don't quote everybody else, quote yourself. Okay, Justin, here we go. How many of you like interaction, puzzles? Great, get out a pen and paper, please. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an exercise. What I'd like you to do is on a piece of paper, I know you have pens, I know you have workbooks. You are going to recreate this image exactly as it is here. Now, I am the customer, you're the subcontractor. Your job is to recreate this image without crossing over any lines and without lifting your pen. I know, Rebecca, you've seen this before. You may begin. And if you get it, I want you to raise your hand. So those two criteria, without crossing over any lines, without lifting your pen. When you get it, raise your hand. Got it? All right. All right, show me what you did. Okay, you crossed right there.
This is as far as I got.
That's as far as you got. Okay, you'll keep trying there. Okay, I see you. I'll come over there. Yes, what do you got? Show me what you did. Good. Good. Well done. What's your name? Daniel. Give Daniel a hand, please. Hold on a second. Okay, you did it over here. Let's see how you did it. Oh, hanging. What's hanging? Is that like between Helen and Danny? Perfect. Okay, he did it a different way. What's your name? Stephen. Give him a hand. Okay, we'll come back to Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Go over here. How'd you do it? Under pressure now, right? Good, good, good so far. Yep. Well, what did you just finish around there? You did it. Excellent. Who else had it over here? Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, you're going to cross over. Okay, show one more. I'll do one more. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. You got it. Okay, Victor, show us how you did it. Can you come up here? I don't know if that doesn't work. Can you just go up on the screen and point it out? And then Stephen, you go on that side as soon as he's done. Show us, because you did it a little differently. So go ahead, Daniel. How'd you do it? Brilliant. Give him a hand. Excellent. Stephen, how'd you do it? Yeah, okay, and there's good job. Get the hand for sure. There's a couple of other ways. Now, how many of you looked at this and said, "This is so stupid, I hate puzzles. I'm not going to do it. Why is he even asking me to do this? Where else does that show up in your life? And how did that impact your ability to do the task?" How many of you are like slobbering? "Oh, puzzles is so awesome." And you were trying, but maybe you got it, maybe you didn't. That's okay. But your attitude impacts how you do that, solve the problem, right? I really don't care if you solve the problem. What do I care about? I don't care about that either. How many of you noticed the color changing from bright blue to light red? If you missed that, be honest. Raise your hand if you did not notice that. Thank you for being honest. So I'm going to show you what, oh, that's another way of doing it. So that's just opposite of you, Stephen, right? This is what it looked like in the beginning. Why did I do this? What does this mean? What does this represent? What does this even matter? What's this about? Ideas. Yes.
I mean, if you're so focused on your task, sometimes you miss the environment you're operating in, and the task may not be relevant.
Give that man, I don't know, you got a coupon or something, Christy? Like $5 off your registration. Of course, she's a sponsor, right? So like $5 more about. Excellent. Any other thoughts? What does it represent? What does the background changing represent? Yes. What do you mean? You mean while you're actually working on your goal, the parameters of what you're working on will change? And so what do you do? Keep going. So yes, sir. You adjust. Yeah. Now this is a very simple model of something called inattentional blindness. How many of you have ever heard of that term? Some of you are going to Google it. Inattentional blindness. In the 70s, a gentleman by the name of Ulrich Neisser, who is the father of cognitive psychology, found out that when you focus on something so intently, you literally become blind to everything else. And so the background changing could be the economy. It could be your competition changing. It could be regulations changing, right? But sometimes we get so focused on the task that we're doing that we're missing all that. But I say the background changing, the most important thing is the environment, as Stephen said. Let's call that the relationship. The sustainability of the ability to do the puzzle is important. That we maintain that, but you have to see that, right? So this phenomenon was studied by two Harvard researchers, Daniel Simmons, Christopher Chabrid, in the 90s. You probably saw those videos with the people bouncing and passing basketballs and a person in a gorilla suit literally goes across screen for 8 seconds. When I first saw this, I did not see the gorilla. So this other Harvard researcher by the name of Trafton Drew, his entire job is to work with professional lookers. Now you might think that means models, right? I don't mean that kind of looker. I mean radiologists. What do radiologists do? They look for abnormalities, don't they? So what Trafton did is he said, I'm going to work with these, and this is at Harvard Business School. He says, what if these Harvard Business School radiologists, what if I put a gorilla, can you see that? About the size of a matchbox and superimpose it on an MRI. Their whole job is to look for anomalies. They'll certainly see it. 83% of them did. Why? They're not looking for gorillas on their MRI. What does this have to do with you? Sometimes we get so focused on the work that we think is important. What is it that we're missing in our business? A lot of times it's that relationship. So as a leader in your business, your DBE business, your small business, wherever you work, there is a relationship that you have to balance between task and relationship. And sometimes what happens is we focus too much on the task. If you're like me, some of you may focus too much on the relationship. The task doesn't get done. So remember, I was the CEO of this company when I got started, and I was so focused on what I needed to do to turn this company around financially. My assistant, she was fantastic. And Lucretia would do anything she could to help me. And I remember on class days, people would come from all over the country. They would come into our office here in Las Vegas. And it was crazy in the office. But the work had to go on. But Lucretia, not only being my assistant, she was our front desk person, so she would greet our customers and take care of them. And she was oftentimes overwhelmed. But I was so focused on those things, I would come out to her, hey, Lucretia, could you take care of this for me? And what's she going to say when the CEO of the company comes out? Of course. But I'm so in my head, I don't see how stressed and anxious she is. At the end of the day, pressure's off a little bit. I realize that it's been a busy day, and I say, hey, Lucretia, were you able to get that done? And I know she hadn't. She said no, and I said, that's okay. When do you think you can get that done? She said, I'll take care of it by tomorrow. I said, fantastic. Is that okay, that interaction? Yeah. What if I do it again next week? and next week. Because naturally, I'm so focused on task. That seems like a small thing, doesn't it? But over time, that has a very compounding effect. I can give you examples in my personal life, but I want to move on because I want to get to some more interaction. The best leaders I know that have a positive impact play golf. I'm kidding, they do not. They do not. It's a metaphor. Some of you are like, do you know this audience? No, you do not have to play golf. But anybody here did anybody here play golf? Who plays golf? You play golf. What's your favorite club? Your putter. That's important. That is an important club to be good with, yes? Problem is, can you tee off with your putter? No. You can't tee off with your putter. You can't use your putter in the sand trap.
Well, not very effective.
Not very effectively, but it has a very specific use, yes? So you play back there, yes? What's your favorite club? Say it. The 7-iron. You like the 7-iron? You can use it yes?
That's right.
Some of you are like, I like to smash that thing. You try putting with that, right? So here's the metaphor. Listen, there's lots of different models about the styles of leadership. I like the one that says there's 6 styles. There's a coercive style. There's an authoritative style. There's a pace-setting style. There's an affiliative style, a democratic and a coaching style. I'll describe those in a second. So let's say there's 14 clubs? Is that how many there typically are in a full set? Why? Because you have different situations, yes? The same with being effective in your leadership. To have the positive impact, you need to be able to adapt to the situation and have a leadership style that's more effective. Coercive. Is it ever appropriate that we're coercive? Do what I say, do it now. Yes, when the building's on fire, you're in the operating room, it's like, hand me the scalpel, don't argue with me. Right? There are times when it's appropriate to be coercive. But if we do that all the time, we create challenges in our organization. Would you agree? Authoritative. Some of you think that may sound negative. It's actually one of the most positively correlated leadership styles. Come with me, let me show you. This is how we do it here. Pace setting. That's all about goals. It's all about striving and driving and achieving higher. We're not satisfied with what we achieved this last year. We're gonna work on achieving more. There's a time when we get to do that. But sometimes we have to take a break and celebrate and relax. Affiliative. That's bringing in everybody, different departments, not having silos, but being able to work with different people, work with different departments, and getting all their input. Democratic. It's about hearing everybody's voice. Could you imagine if you ran everything like a democracy in your business? That'd be a problem, wouldn't it? Coaching. Is it appropriate to coach your people? What if you have to keep coaching over and over and over again? So there are different situations that you have to have for these different leadership styles. Now, I would imagine that some of you in here are really good with 3 or 4 of those styles of leadership, and maybe you struggle with 2 or 3. Would you agree? So to have the most positive impact, you get to work on those clubs that may not be your strength. So here's the problem. To have that positive impact, you need to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. That's a big part of emotional intelligence. When you have that, you can have such a positive impact on your team. And that takes emotional intelligence. It takes awareness of your strengths, your weaknesses, what happens under stress, how that's causing you to be thinking impaired. Your reactions may be different than mine. We're going to find yours out a little bit later. Is that okay? Okay, that's my promise to you. 80% of leaders with a high emotional intelligence earn more. They're more productive individually. Your teams are more productive by a rate of 15 to 20%. And if you have low emotionally intelligent leaders, including yourself, your teams will underperform. There is a relationship between business results and your culture that you're creating on your teams. Absolutely. And it comes down to about 1/3 of your financial results. This is not, people say, well, you're talking about soft skills. No, these are not soft. This is hard bottom line dollars. comes down to your self-awareness and how do you show up. How do you show up under pressure? I shared with you how I show up. What's your reputation when things go bad? When somebody cuts you off and you see that their license plate is from California. How does the team view you under pressure? How do your customers view you under pressure? Are you able to adapt and respond? How do you handle change? The challenge that you and I have is that under pressure, our reputations are created. And I love this saying by the Roman Epicurus, because it's not when things are easy that your reputation is created, it's when the storms and tempests of life come out. I love this picture, and the person who took it was in England, and I got permission to use this. He couldn't find it. I can't find this anymore out there, but it's a woman sailing. I just love that metaphor of sailing hard water and have success. Well, sometimes bad things happen. I have 5 children, and if any of you have children, you know, car accidents happen. This is on Alta here in Las Vegas. My oldest son, who I drove to Orlando with, Josh, one day calls me on the phone. He says, Dad, something bad happened. He had just taken our son, Sam, to his friend's house, literally a couple blocks away. I said, what happened? He said, I got in an accident. I said, are you okay? He said, yes. I said, where are you? He was literally right around the corner. It was like desert sunrise in Alta. So I got in my other car and I drove over there. Why? Because I wanted to get there fast. I gave him a big hug. He was just shaking. He said, Dad, I'm so sorry. He was changing the music on his iPhone and he drove off onto the sidewalk. Thank goodness there was nobody on the sidewalk. And he freaked out, and so he wanted to get back on the road, and he hit that tree. The tree is still there, by the way. If you've ever noticed that tree going like this, there's 2 of them like this, but this one was not natural. The car was totaled, the tree's still there. I couldn't get in the driver's side, I got on the other side. All our neighbors were driving by, hey, Brother Horn, they call me Brother Horn. You need any help? No, we got it under control. Now I was in task mode, right? I had done the relationships out of the way, I had to get stuff fixed. So, as soon as my oldest daughter, Emily, heard about this, she called Jen. She said, I heard Josh got in an accident. What did Dad do? Because 10 years earlier when she got in an accident, I did the task first, then the relationship. I wasn't mad at her. I was just stressed out. That was a focus on me. And luckily, Jenna said, he did okay. Because my kids are normal. It was a huge upgrade. It worked out. But you and I have always show up. We are thinking impaired. We don't always show up the way our team needs. We have what I call a 4-factorial brain. Okay, so I can talk about biology. I'm just going to do it as simply as I can. A 4-factorial brain. What does that mean? Under normal circumstances, you can think of 4 permutations and combinations. You can easily have 4 direct reports. What's a combination and permutation of 4? 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is 24. Yes? That's a normal thinking capacity. That's why phone numbers are in combinations of 3 and 4. That's why we have acronyms like DBE, SBE, 3 letters. We can remember them. You get more than 4, it becomes very difficult. Our brains struggle with to hold that information. If you're slightly stressed, you lose one of your factorials. 3 times 2 times 1 is what? 6. We've just lost 75% of our ability to think clearly. You don't think that being a little bit stressed every day has a negative impact on your culture and on your impact on your team? That's why that number is 12%. Would you like to know how you show up under pressure if your focus is task or people related? Would you be interested? Well, then stand up. Go ahead. Stand up. This is where you get to participate. We are going to do a leadership exercise. That leadership exercise is you making decisions. We're going to do a human scattergram. You get to find, it's okay to participate. You'll wish you had. Do we have our helpers? Yep, excellent. So here's what you're gonna do. I'm gonna give you two adjectives. You are either gonna step forward or step backward. So I want you to think of a line right at your toes right now. So you need to make some space for yourself. Now, I know some of you, English isn't your first language, but you just gotta make a choice. For those of you who have English is your first language, you're still gonna struggle. It's okay. So let's do this slowly together, the first one. If you are persuasive, you'll step forward versus humble backwards. You have to choose. Persuasive forward, humble backwards. You get it? Okay, do that now. Persuasive forward, humble backwards. Loud forward, soft-spoken backwards. Daring forwards, prepared backwards. Impulsive forward, steady backward. Analytical forward, accurate backwards. Risk taker forward, sensitive backward. Results oriented forward, perfectionist backwards. Quick forward, deliberate backwards. Friendly forward, discreet backwards. Assertive forward, careful backwards. Controlling forward, supportive backwards. Motivating forward, thoughtful backwards. Energetic forward or reserved backwards. Spontaneous forward or predictable backwards. Okay, how many of you ended up in front of the line? Come to the front of the room, please. Come to the front of the room. How many of you ended up back of the line? Go to the back of the room. That is not a punishment. Believe me, it is not a punishment. If you'll go to the back of the room, please. Were any of you really close to the line? Because some of you went forward and backwards and like we're really close. That's okay. Okay. Were you close to the line?
I didn't move, but I ended up in the same position.
Same position. Okay, so let's say you're in the middle. So you're flexible. That's interesting. So I want to just point out, is it possible that those of you in the front of the room are probably more direct in your communication? A direct communicator, turn on the light. It's too hot here. Take care of that. Back in the room, probably more indirect. It's hot. Is anybody else hot in here? Would you mind, if it's okay, please turn it up? No? Okay. So less direct. Yes? Does that make sense? Okay. So typically we're fast-paced, action-oriented, and direct up here. More thoughtful, reserved, potentially. Does that sound pretty accurate? Okay. So we've split you twice. That's okay. So this is based on theory. Listen, this is completely unscientific, but fun. And it's based on very sound theory. Now, you can't always have behavioral assessments of people, but if you meet them and you know they're direct, you probably, fast-paced, direct, more action-oriented. If they're a little more softer spoken, they're going to be more thoughtful and reserved. That's very natural. But we're going to do this one more time, left or right. Okay? So we have to do this fast. But this is a physical representation of our differences in how we prefer to communicate. So you do need a little bit of room. It's okay if you bump into people. You have to actually touch somebody. It's okay. So here we go. If you are more challenging, step left, agreeable, right. If you are more decisive, you're going to go left, or sociable, right. If you are more adventuresome, left, or deliberate, right. Diplomatic, left. Considerate, right. If you are competitive, left. Easygoing, right. If you are stubborn, left. Sweet, to the right. If you are bold, to the left. Charming, to the right. If you are admirable, to the left. Kind, to the right. If you are forceful, to the left. Patient, to the right. Skeptical, to the left. Receptive, to the right. Trustworthy, to the left. Generous, to the right. Concrete, to the left. And compassionate, to the right. How many of you ended up on the left side of the room? Scoot over here, please. If you're in the front, come up here, left. If you're on the back, left. If you're on the right side over here. You're in the middle. That's fine. You are wishy-washy. Actually, that could be a strength, right? Because you can be flexible and adaptable. Now, that's good, but sometimes that means that people don't know who's going to show up today. That's the only downside of being too flexible. It's what we want to achieve. We actually want to achieve more flexibility. So look around the room right now. Again, physical representation of some of our differences. This group over here, this is the group that likes to be in charge. They think they're the best leaders. Just ask them. They like to be in control, do things my way if they have the preference. Is that true? Because it's the right way after all. Right? I mean, why even ask? This group over here, they're the ones you want to hang out with after, because they're the ones that like to have the most fun. They are, yes, they're friendly, they're high-fiving. They are definitely people who are very task-oriented over here. This is all about getting stuff done. Don't come into problems without a solution, because we want to win. I don't care about your stop and whining. They're like, really? Let's have fun. Let's go out there and let's do this together. Let's win. It's too hot here. Let's turn down the air together. Yes? Back here, no, let's go back here. Listen, I want everybody to look at this group right here. Some of the best leaders in the world are right there. Why? Because they put people first. They care about people. There's some mama bears and papa bears over there, right? They're the nicest people you know until you threaten their teeth. Then they can take you out. All right? Yeah. But it takes a while to get there. You're slow burn, but then you turn into like the Incredible Hulk, right? These people think you're bad, you're mean. These people are nice until you piss them off. But that usually never happens. They are caring. They're some of the best leaders around. Over here, this is the group that's been checking everything I've been saying. Inattentional blindness, that's not even a thing. They're accurate. They know the policies, they know the procedures, they know the right way to do things. Is that true? You are prepared about the answers. And you want to know if stuff is accurate or not, ask them, because they're usually the most prepared. Now, here's the problem. Under pressure, I'm going to start with you here. This group turns into what we call dictatorial steamrollers. Sometimes they can disregard people's feelings, if you're honest. After all, there's no crying in drug construction. Just do the work, right? And I relate to this, and sometimes that creates dysfunction on the team, because it's very task related. It's that bottom right quadrant. Sometimes we need to be there, but we can't sustain that. This group over here, under pressure, when they're thinking impaired, sometimes they just won't shut up. If you don't understand, I'll just explain it a different way, because obviously you didn't understand the way I explained it before. So let me explain it a different way, because they can for sure get it. And it's called a verbal attack. Now, that doesn't mean they're malicious. It just means that they're getting sarcastic because they're frustrated with you. Is that true? Does that ever happen over here? This group over here, under pressure, when you're thinking impaired, shuts down. You will avoid. Sometimes that means you procrastinate difficult conversations, maybe longer than you should. Some people take advantage of you because of your goodness and your kindness until you can't take it anymore because it builds up. True? This group over here, you gotta be right. This is a stubborn group. If your facts don't meet theirs, they win. True? Again, now this isn't scientific, but if we're 50 to 70% right, let me suggest a few things. It is probable that your leadership styles that you excel at are probably coercive, authoritative, pace setting. Would that, at least those three, would you agree? Over here, pace setting, authoritative, probably good at affiliative and maybe coaching. This group over here is great at pace setting and coaching and affiliative and democratic. Would you agree? Probably. Over here, you're probably great at authoritative. Again, it's about being right. Great at coaching, great at pace setting goals and all that. And maybe you struggle with a few others. Does that make sense? This is a physical representation of our differences. Here's the problem. People, the world wants to divide us. They want to divide us by our gender. They want to divide us by our race. They want to divide us by our political beliefs. They want to divide us, and now I'm dividing you by how you even communicate. There's a lot of division going on in this world. And it is my hope that we're more like you two.
Oh, perfect.
It's perfect as they come. That we learn how to come more, to the middle of this room. So for you, my invitation is we're going to give you little color stickers. I know they're different than maybe some other color stuff, but what I want you to do is I want you to get to know the folks because they're going to be yellow, they're going to be red. Okay, we have people with stickers right there. And you're going to get a sticker. I want you throughout the rest of the day to talk to them and be really nice to them. And when you talk to these guys in the red, I want you to be direct. I want you to be to the point. I want you to be assertive. Would that fire you up?
Yep.
I want you to be patient. You folks over there, I want you to be very accurate and very detailed and talk to everyone that you see that has a green name tag. You find everyone that has a blue name tag and laugh with them and have fun. Fair enough? And the reason I have those opposites, because those are the most opposite that we have of each other. My invitation to you is to improve your impact by learning how to adapt and learning how to use different clubs. Learn how to strengthen those styles that maybe are not naturally strong for you. Learn how to get closer to the middle of the room. And I know later this afternoon, Jesse will build on that and really help you do that. Would you be so kind as to find where are my color teams there? Raise your hand, go get a sticker, put it on your name tag, okay? And make sure you do that throughout the day, have those conversations. We've got all of those name tags, and take your seats, if you will. Give yourselves a hand. Is it, yeah, is that?